Why your income grows slower than your expectations. You did what you were told. You studied, found a job, showed up every day, worked harder each year. On paper, your income is higher than it was 5 or 10 years ago. But in real life, it doesn't feel that way. Rent is higher, groceries cost more, insurance, transportation, subscriptions, taxes. Everything seems to move faster than your paycheck. And somewhere between promotions, side hustles, and long-term investing plans, a quiet question starts to creep in. Why am I trying so hard, yet still feeling financially behind? This isn't laziness. It's not a lack of ambition. And it's definitely not just bad luck. For millions of people in the US and the UK, income is growing, but expectations, costs, and pressure are growing even faster. Today we're talking about why your income grows slower than your expectations. And more importantly, what that reality is trying to teach you. This topic matters because income is no longer just about paying the bills. It's about security, choices, and peace of mind. In the past, a stable job often meant a stable life. If you worked hard, stayed loyal to a company, and waited long enough, your financial situation usually improved in a visible, meaningful way. Today, that connection feels weaker, and for many people, almost broken. Across the US and the UK, a large number of working professionals are technically earning more than they did a few years ago. They receive raises, change jobs for higher pay, or add a side income. Yet their financial stress hasn't gone away. Rent or mortgage payments take a bigger share of income. Food, energy, transport, healthcare, and childcare quietly absorb every increase. On paper, income goes up. In reality, breathing room does not. The problem isn't just inflation or higher living costs. Even though those are real, the deeper issue is that income growth feels slow compared to how fast life expectations grow. As your career advances, so do your responsibilities. You're expected to save more, invest smarter, plan for emergencies, think about retirement, maybe support family, maybe buy a home. The financial finish line keeps moving further away. This creates a dangerous mental trap. When progress feels invisible, people start questioning themselves. Am I bad with money? Did I choose the wrong career? Am I already falling behind? These thoughts don't come from failure. They come from a system where effort and reward are no longer closely aligned. Recognizing this gap is critical, because if you misdiagnose the problem, you'll chase the wrong solutions. And that's how people work harder, take bigger risks, and feel even more exhausted without actually getting ahead. To understand why income growth feels painfully slow, we have to look beyond numbers and into behavior, mindset, and systems. One of the biggest root causes is misaligned expectations. Most people don't consciously set unrealistic income goals, but they absorb them. Social media, success stories, and online finance content constantly highlight extreme outcomes. Fast promotions, explosive businesses, early retirement at 35. These stories are rare, but they feel common because they are visible. When average progress is compared to exceptional results, normal income growth feels like failure. A 5 to 8% raise sounds reasonable in economic terms, but emotionally it feels insignificant when your rent jumps 12% and your long-term goals feel massive. The math isn't broken, your expectations are quietly inflated. Another root cause is linear income in a nonlinear world. Most jobs still pay in a straight line, time for money. But modern costs behave differently. Housing, education, healthcare, and even lifestyle expectations grow faster than wages. This creates a structural mismatch. You can be skilled, disciplined, and hardworking, and still feel stuck because your income model doesn't scale the way expenses do. There's also a mindset issue many people don't realize they have: confusing effort with leverage. Working harder often feels like the logical answer. More hours, more responsibility, more stress. But income rarely accelerates just because effort increases. Without skills that compound, assets that grow, or positions that scale, effort alone produces diminishing returns. None of this means people are careless or ignorant. It means they're operating inside systems that reward patience slowly, while constantly reminding them how far behind they feel. Understanding these root causes isn't about blame, it's about clarity. And clarity is where real financial progress begins. Once you understand why income growth feels slower than expected, the next question is obvious. What can you realistically do about it? Not a shortcut, not a promise of quick wealth, but a direction that works in the real world for people with jobs, responsibilities, and limited time. The first shift is mental, not financial. Stop measuring progress only by how fast your income increases, and start measuring how much leverage you're building. Leverage comes from skills, positioning, and ownership, not just effort. A person who earns slightly more but controls valuable skills or assets is often far ahead of someone earning more today with no long-term upside. From a career perspective, this means focusing less on being busy and more on becoming harder to replace. Skills that increase decision-making power, problem-solving, communication, or revenue impact tend to compound over time. They don't always pay immediately, but they change the ceiling of your income. This is especially important for people between 18 and 35, where future optionality matters more than short-term comfort. On the money side, the goal isn't aggressive risk-taking, it's consistency and structure. Investing small amounts regularly, building emergency buffers, and avoiding lifestyle inflation creates stability first. Stability reduces stress, and reduced stress leads to better decisions. That's how progress quietly accelerates. Finally, accept that slow growth is not the enemy, unfocused growth is. Income doesn't need to explode to change your future. It needs to grow in the right direction, supported by skills, discipline, and patience. When those align, expectations slowly start matching reality again, and that's when momentum becomes real. The real impact of any financial decision rarely shows up in months. It shows up in years. This is where many people lose patience and unknowingly sabotage themselves. When progress feels slow, it's tempting to assume the approach is wrong. But in most cases, the issue isn't the strategy, it's the time horizon. When you consistently build skills, manage money with structure, and invest with discipline, the early years feel underwhelming. Results are subtle, lifestyle barely changes, effort feels disconnected from reward. This is the phase where most people quit, pivot impulsively, or chase something louder and faster. And that decision, more than income level, often determines long-term outcomes. If you stay consistent, something important happens. Compounding begins to work with you instead of against you. Skills stack. Experience increases your bargaining power. Investments gain momentum. Financial stress slowly declines, not because you suddenly earn dramatically more, but because your systems start absorbing shocks instead of amplifying them. On the flip side, ignoring this long-term view has consequences. Without patience and consistency, income may rise temporarily but stability never arrives. Every setback feels catastrophic. Every expense creates anxiety. The future remains fragile, even with higher pay. Financial freedom isn't about escaping work or hitting a magic number. It's about creating options, being able to say no, slow down, or choose differently. That kind of freedom is built quietly, over time, through boring consistency. And while it's not exciting in the short term, it's incredibly powerful in the long run. If there's one idea worth remembering, it's this: slow income growth does not automatically mean you're failing. In many cases, it means you're living inside a reality that rewards patience far more slowly than it advertises success. The frustration you feel isn't a personal flaw, it's a signal. A signal that expectations, systems, and time are out of sync. When you step back and connect the pieces, the pattern becomes clearer. Income grows slowly because careers compound slowly. Skills take time to mature. Investments need years, not months. And stability is built through repetition, not dramatic moves. Once you accept that, the pressure to catch up begins to fade. You stop chasing every new opportunity and start committing to fewer, better decisions. This doesn't mean lowering your ambition. It means grounding it. Progress becomes something you can actually track. Better skills, stronger financial buffers, calmer reactions to uncertainty. Over time, those quiet improvements change how you experience money and work. You may not feel rich, but you feel less trapped. And that feeling matters more than most people realize. The people who eventually gain real financial freedom aren't always the highest earners. They're the ones who stayed consistent long enough for effort to turn into leverage. And leverage to turn into choice. That process is slow, but it's also reliable. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Are your expectations shaped by noise? Or by reality? And what would change if you gave your current path more time instead of more pressure? Share your thoughts. What part of your financial journey feels the most frustrating right now? Income, career growth, or long-term security?